everyone, it's Jessica. Thanks for joining with me today. So today I'm going to make a layout that was inspired by one that I saw in the Scrapbooking and Cards Today magazine. This one here was created by Andrea Lake, and I just really love her grid style and all of the little details that she has worked into that layout. I thought it would work perfectly for these 5 pictures that I have of my son playing in the giant box that our new washing machine came in. So a little bit more on that story later. But it also made me think of the stamp and die set from Fawn that I had called Loads of Fun. I love making birthday cards with this one, but I thought, this is a great opportunity to bring it onto a scrapbooking layout too. All right, so I've done a little bit of prep work here. I just kind of did some stash diving in my papers, and I've got some sapphire cardstock, some green apple cardstock already kind of cut down and gutted. And then that main piece is just a light gray diagonal stripe. And then I've got a bright blue paper. And then actually this little scrap of green is also from Lawn Fawn, but the other papers are from my Close to My Heart stash. So I'm just going to kind of play around here with where my photos are going to go. Now in her piece, she has only 2 pictures, so obviously I have some more. And I'm just going to kind of lay them out and get a feel for how this is going to come together. There are a lot of really beautiful details in her layout. I will leave a link in the description box down below to this magazine, which you can view for free online. And I know you can't really see it in the video, but she has some machine stitching around all of her squares. She's got some embroidery thread kind of wrapped around some of the squares that are clustered together. She's got them layered up, so there's lots of fun layers, just like a lot of really beautiful details. I'm going to do my very best to mimic and, of course, fall very short. So I don't have my washing machine die cut out yet, so I'm just going to use the die cut itself to be my placeholder for now. And originally I was thinking that I would put it up here in the top center, and then I would take my title and layer it a little bit over it and kind of come out to the right from there, and probably put my journaling down here in this bottom section here. So that was my plan, but you will see as this goes on that I do a lot of moving things around and kind of fussing with them before I get it all figured out. So off camera, I did stamp and color a couple of washing machines and some little accessory pieces. I wasn't sure if I wanted to have a colorful washing machine or go with one that was a little bit more real to life. I've also cut down my squares for my pattern papers, and one of them I just used some blue cardstock, and to add a little bit of interest, I ran it through an embossing folder that just had like a polka dot design, and I'm going to use the debossed side rather than the side that is popped up. Okay, so I'm going to do my best here to just kind of layer these together and move my colors around and make sure that they are spread out evenly. Later, when I was done and I went back and I looked at the magazine again, I realized that she didn't have any pattern papers behind her 2 photos. And maybe that would have helped me a little bit if I would have kind of looked closer at the details, because this did definitely give me a little bit of a struggle. I apologize if you can hear my cats being noisy in the background. They always seem to know whenever I am doing a voiceover. But as you can see, just kind of a lot of moving and switching things, trying to make sure that all the colors are evenly distributed. And I really wasn't liking this. I had to actually walk away for a day and come back to it and give it a second go just to see if I could make something work that I was going to like. Now on these photos, it's kind of funny because our washing machine just croaked, of course. It's always so inconvenient too, right before we were about to take a trip for the 4th of July. And so I just told my husband, I'm like, I want the same one. It doesn't matter. It's been a workhorse for us. So let's just go get a new one. And we could not remember when we had gotten the one that had died. And so we had a little bit of a disagreement trying to figure out what year it was. And I'm like, I've got a solution. For this one, I'm going to scrapbook it, my son playing in the box. And that way we'll always be able to remember when it was that we bought the new one. So when we have this problem again in a few years, there's the solution. Now off camera, I did do some machine stitching to my squares and then around the perimeter there. learned this lesson the hard way before, and of course I forgot it. When I machine stitch the big square like that, I sometimes get a little bubble because it's not adhered down all the way. And really what I should do is just machine stitch the paper itself and then glue all of those layers together. So once again, I kind of forgot about that lesson. Hopefully I'll remember it for the future. All right, since I was having a lot of trouble figuring out the whole layering of the squares, I just said, forget about it. I'm just going to start gluing them down and I'll figure it out from there. So that's what I did. I was like, I'm done messing with this. I'm just going to glue these down and I'll figure out, like, because some of them go a little bit cockeyed over top of the layers. I'm like, I'll figure it out later. Let me just get the base pieces down. So what I did, I was showing you there earlier that I took a circle die and I cut out the center of my washing machine. I wanted to make it look a little bit more realistic. So now that I have that hole in there, I'm just lining a piece of acetate behind it so I can make that window like you would see through the front of a washing machine. And then I have cut another washing machine piece here, and I'm just using a little bit of leftover gray ink from one of my blending brushes and putting a little wash of color behind. And then I'm going to put this all together with some foam tape. Now, when I have made birthday cards and things like that with this stamp and die set before, I have made this as a shaker and put some little white beads on the inside along with my articles of clothing, and that is a lot of fun. I didn't do it on this layout, but when I was all done and I had, of course, attached it all together, I really wish that I would have made it into a shaker, but I just wanted to have some of that dimension in there and have that little acetate piece to make it look a little bit more realistic, but it still turns out really cute. The underwear and the sock just kind of kill me every time. They're so adorable. All right, so that's going to go like that. And again, trying to figure out how these pictures are going to go down. So what I decided to do is just to kind of offset them a little bit. I'm not going to turn anything crooked. I'm just going to kind of offset from different corners of those base squares, and that's kind of how I end up putting it together. So mine does look a little bit different from that original layout in the magazine, but I think I would like to try this again and try to mimic hers a little bit more closely the second time around. So I've got my photos down. That's going to be good. We're just going to move on, call it good and move on. And here's where I decide to move the washing machine. Instead of having it in the top row, I'm going to put it over here to the left-hand side. And I'm just going to kind of build up a little embellishment cluster. Put my little suds box up there on top of the washing machine and layer the basket of clothing over the front of it. This whole washing machine piece ends up being quite bulky and has a lot more dimension than I probably would have liked to have had. I do have a couple of layers there with the cardstock for the washing machine itself, plus I had put it together with some foam tape. Now I need to add a little bit more foam tape in order to have that laundry basket sitting in front of it. So I'm going to double up on my foam tape here just to make sure that that sits evenly. But yeah, there's definitely quite a bit of bulk to this page. And I try to be mindful of that in my scrapbooks just because they are already so very thick with all of the pages, but it's still pretty cute the way that it comes out popping off the page. All right, then I had my little box of dryer sheets and I kind of played around with where to put those, but I'm going to end up layering those over top of the window of the washing machine and the basket too. All right, so now I need to figure out the titles. So I went to my Cricut and I just used one of the fonts that I had and typed out the word loads, and then I used the offset feature to create a little background for it to sit on. And I went into the offset and I just kind of deleted any of the holes that were in it using the contour button, so that way I had a solid background for my letters to sit on. So the title is going to say Loads of Fun. And I'll go ahead and get those letters glued onto that peach cardstock there. And then for the of fun part of my title, I just went through my stamp stash and I found an alphabet that I liked and I stamped out the of fun. And I'm going to have that on a little strip of white paper underneath of this piece here once I get it all put together. It was really funny. My son was helping me cut this out on the Cricut, and when I was done, he's like, "Do you have anything else to cut out? Because that was a lot of fun." And I'm like, no, that was it for right now. But it was kind of funny. He got a kick out of watching the Cricut it do its thing. So I decided to cut a dovetailed banner into one side of my little strip there for the other part of the title. Before I commit to cutting the other side of it, I just want to test out if I'm going to have it flush with the square or where exactly I'm going to layer it underneath of the word loads. So I do mess around with this quite a bit before deciding to cut the other end of it too. And then I kind of scooch everything over to the left and I layer that word loads over my title, and then I kind of give myself a little bit of space to the right-hand side of the title to add a little bit of extra embellishment. So I don't know about you guys, but these are some of my favorite things to scrapbook. I just love doing normal everyday life kind of events around the house. That's what I want to look back and remember years from now. Some of my least favorite things to scrapbook are like big events like holidays or birthdays. I don't know, they're just not as much fun to me. I like to kind of capture the everyday and, his rolling around in the box in the front yard. And also just as a way to kind of, like I said, document when did we get the new washing machine? And so now we can remember what year it was. That's just some of my favorite kind of thing to scrapbook. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. What are your favorite kind of pictures to document and record? So I'm going to pop up my title here with a little bit of foam tape. Since I've already got some dimension going on in this layout, I figured let's just go for it and add a little bit more. So I'm going to pop up the word loads, but then I will put the of fun flat to the page. And then you can see I did also stamp another laundry basket there. I colored the clothes in all the same colors that I had used for the first one, but I just kind of mixed around which colors were where. That way it wasn't too matchy, but that I was continuing to use the same colors. Okay, so I'll get this other one down here. Sorry about my head. And then this page is nearly complete. So this is kind of where I had wished that I had made that washing machine into a shaker. I just felt like it was maybe a little plain over there. And so just to kind of add a fun little bubble look, I took some clear sequins and I glued those down instead as my extra little embellishments. And that's going to be it. I hope you guys have enjoyed. Like I said, make sure you check out the description box down below. I will leave a link to the Scrapbooking Cards Today magazine. I think it's so wonderful that they provide it for free online. I do love having my paper copy of it though. I've looked at it so many times. But thanks for being here with me today. I hope you guys are having a good one, and I will see you next time. Happy crafting. Bye.